Welcome to This Week in Hastings Headline History, where we take a look back at what was making news in Hastings, Florida over a century ago. These are stories directly out of the pages of the Hastings Herald, which was published weekly in the early 1900s. Sit back and enjoy as I share with you a few of the stories from this week in 1919. Lewis Gallon acquitted, but 30 gallons of shine destroyed. Lewis Gallon and Ed Jenkins, both of Elkton, were arraigned before County Judge George William Jackson on Friday, charged with having distilling apparatus in their possession. The complainant in each case was Constable Charles E. Green, who made the arrests. Gallon, who lived on the Butterworth farm, was taken by Constable Green on suspicion of being too closely intimate with 2 lard can stills and 30 gallons of beer, which were found in his company, it's alleged, when his arrest took place. Constable Green produced his entire surroundings in court, but a jury decided the intimacy was not sufficiently close to warrant further consideration and discharged Gallon. Ed Jenkins was less fortunate. Constable Green found him in possession of a 20-gallon still and a quantity of High Life, both still and liquor working. He will spend Christmas and 7 weeks following as a guest of the authorities. Local man demonstrates cutting machine he invented and patented. Tuesday, L.K. Benedict, a local man, held a successful demonstration on the Cherokee Dairy and Produce Farm of a wheel coulter or cutting machine, which he has invented, built, and patented. The demonstration was a success in every way, and the machine received high praise from all who saw it work. The machine was operated over an especially prepared patch of farm where pea vines had been grown to cover the ground to a considerable height. The vines were first cut by the coulter and afterward plowed under with little difficulty. It is designed to work over crabgrass, cowpeas, velvet beans, or similar litter in a manner which will result in the actual cutting of the stalks or vines without allowing them to be forced into the ground or to slip along in front of one of the blades. The machine consists of heavy disc blades, each set between 2 iron wheels strongly beaded. The beads of the heavy wheels hold the vines tightly in place and give the blades the opportunity to cut them cleanly and not merely to bend them or force them aside. Each pair of wheels with its accompanying blade is set from an arm which is fastened to the machine proper by means of a swivel attachment, thus allowing the wheels to rise and fall as may be necessary to adapt the machine to depression, rises, and other unevenness of the ground over which it works. Mr. Benedict's machine, which is designed to be drawn by mules, provided for 3 sets of wheels and blades, but the machine can be built in almost any size and with nearly any number of blades desired to accommodate it to tractors of various sizes. Home of station agent here completely destroyed by fire. Fire of an unknown origin destroyed the residence of J.L. St. Clair, station agent at Hastings, early Saturday night. The house was burned to the ground and about 2/3 of Mr. St. Clair's furniture and household effects were also lost. The fire started in the kitchen and spread rapidly through the rest of the building, not being discovered until it burst through the roof and attracted the attention of people in the business section of town. The alarm was sounded immediately, but before the fire department could respond, the fire had gained so great a headway that virtually all the firemen could do was to prevent the fire from spreading to adjoining buildings. Mr. and Mrs. St. Clair and their children lost all their personal effects with the exception of the clothing they were wearing at the time. Airplane spends night here, but soft ground landing caused delay. Hastings was given a taste of modern metropolitan life late Monday afternoon when an airplane driven by a pilot named Conant made a landing near the center of the city and remained overnight. The plane was one of 2 Canadian planes who were on their way to Miami, where they'll be used as a commercial proposition in selling rides at $10 for 10 minutes. One plane had engine trouble and was left in St. Augustine for repairs, while the 2 pilots started south to Miami, intending to follow the Dixie Highway. At Hastings, they mistook the brick road to Palatka for the highway and were well on their way to the latter city before discovering their mistake. They then turned with the intention of retracing their way to St. Augustine, but because of approaching darkness, decided to make a landing here. The pilot brought the plane to an excellent stop near the M.E. Church South, but struck soft ground with the result that it was noon Tuesday before the machine could be extricated and start on its way to St. Augustine. 2 additional FEC trains for winter season starting Sunday. The first change of schedules for the winter season of the Florida East Coast Rail Car will be effective Sunday, when 2 additional trains in each direction will become part of the daily service. On January 5th, full winter schedules will go into effect, adding 3 more trains to the tracks. Automobile dealer returns. W.C. Gunn, a prominent automobile agent in this territory, has returned to Hastings from Palatka, where he has been conducting business of late and is preparing to renew his activities in local motoring affairs. He is breaking ground near the center of the business district for the garage and repair shop, which will be completed at a near date. From the editorial section. This editorial came out right after an election that saw just 8 people to get out to vote on not even a full field of candidates, and it questions everyone's pride in their community. It's titled, Hastings, a Town or a Fizzle? Unlike artists, musicians, and successful crapshooters, good towns are made, not born. A town may be paved with gold, flowing with oil, and filled with every natural resource known to man, and yet be a poor place in which to live, unless its citizens take a strong and active interest in its welfare. Unless a man takes a real and active interest in the affairs of his town, he is at best only an indifferently good citizen, and may at any moment become a poor one. Indifference on the part of real citizenship gives the Bolsheviki and anarchists their chance to start trouble in various cities, and time and again resulted in unlimited graft, and has been directly responsible for more misgovernment than any other dozens contributing causes. A town that allows its annual election to pass with only 3 candidates appearing for 7 offices and only 8 votes cast out of a possible 75 or more is not only backward, but closely approaches being decadent. A town that won't furnish sufficient candidates to fill its own seats and that is too indifferent to vote for such candidates as do appear is hardly in line to gain a very serious or respectful hearing from county or state officials when it goes after things that must come from outside its borders. Every man owes it to himself and his community to participate in local affairs, to vote in all local elections, and, if occasion demands, to become a candidate for office. A second election made necessary because of the failures of the regular election is coming soon. It will then be up to Hastings citizens to show whether it is their desire to have a real town with strength to demand and obtain what it needs, or an impotent collection of houses too lacking interest and too divided in purpose to be anything more than a laughingstock outside its own environs. This week, there was also a joke posted in the paper about the election mess. It goes, "When it comes to being candidates for local offices, Hastings citizens all seem anxious to run. But, like the New England farmers' mules, the darn cusses run in the wrong direction." I hope you enjoyed this week's edition of Hastings Headline History. This podcast was brought to you by Presenting the Past, bringing history back to the present through historic presentations and the sale of treasures from days gone by. This episode was written and produced by me, Michelle Murillo, with the aid of vintage copies of the Hastings Herald. Now it's time for this week's musical memory, when we listen back to a song that everybody was listening to over 100 years ago. This week's musical memory is from 1919. The singer this week is Henry Burr. Burr was a Canadian tenor who got a very early start. In 1887, the 5-year-old Burr was already singing in front of audiences. At the age of 20, he was working with all the record labels of the times, Columbia, Edison, Victor, one of the most prolific recording artists. It's estimated in his career he sold about 240 million records. And when radio became a big deal, Burr was right there, becoming a well-known radio performer. His voice is also said to have been the first transcontinental broadcast. He sang into a telephone in New York, and it was heard at the other end of the line at a diner in California. Here's this week's multi-talented performer, Henry Burr, with That Wonderful Mother of Mine.
The moon never beams without bringing me dreams of that wonderful mother of mine. The birds never sing, but a message they bring of that wonderful mother of mine. Just to bring back the time that was so sweet to me, just to bring back the days when I sat on her Your soul shall live on forever.